Welcome back, friend. April's medieval job of the month is one of the sweetest, quite literally. We're diving into the world of the beekeeper, a craft that was absolutely vital to everyday life and one that's still buzzing if you know where to look. So grab a cup of tea, maybe with a spoonful of honey in it, and let's get into it. In the Middle Ages, honey wasn't just a treat, it was a household essential. Sugar wasn't widespread yet, especially in Europe. So if you wanted something sweet, you looked to the bees. But bees weren't prized for just honey. Beeswax was probably just as much, if not more so, important to their lifestyle, especially for the church and the aristocracy. Wax candles, they were a luxury, and they burned cleanly without like that smoky residue, and it was just vital to ceremonies and daily prayer, things like that. Beekeepers in the Middle Ages didn't have the wooden box hives that we know of today. The hives were simple but clever. These skeps were made from coiled straw, often shaped like domes or cones. Hollowed logs, sometimes with little wooden doors carved in to protect the bees from weather, or clay or pottery hives with openings covered until it was time to harvest. And in colder regions like Northern Europe, the hives were insulated with straw and bark to help the bees survive the harsh winters. When hives needed to be moved, whether to sell or protect them, it was a careful operation. Medieval texts advised wrapping the hives in skins and moving them only at night. And to keep the hives healthy, they rubbed the outsides with a mixture of ash and dung. And it sounds wild to us now, but it helped protect the wood from rotting. Now today we actually use beeswax to cover the boxes, or we paint them with a very specific type of paint with low fumes, and this helps protect the boxes. Now you may have seen my beekeeper costume. If you haven't, it's super fun, but it actually represents something that did not come around until about the High Middle Ages, Renaissance period, and even the early modern era, because that wasn't really something they really needed until they really started harvesting honey. And so I always find it kind of humorous when I see people comment on those particular videos about the potential flaws that they see within its ability to protect me from my beekeeping duties, like the longer, droopier monastic sleeves of the habit, maybe my ankles were exposed, not wearing gloves, things like that. But in all reality, and you can even ask a modern beekeeper, most of the time, beekeepers who are really comfortable at beekeeping will not wear gloves anyway. So things like that always make me laugh, but it's just a learning opportunity, and it shows how little people really know about beekeeping unless you go down the rabbit hole. But the most important thing to protect if you're going to wear any safety equipment at all is your face, because they are defensive creatures. They're not aggressive, so they're going to see eyes, they're going to recognize faces. So if they associate you coming and going pretty frequently without harming them, they'll actually remember you and not bother you as often, if at all. And then if you are harvesting honey and you're, attacking their resource, so to speak, they will go for the face because that's what they recognize is the eyes. So the face is the most important thing to protect. Every once in a while you may get stings on the hands, so if you're allergic but still want to beekeep, obviously you want to wear the whole protective suit. But it's just interesting to see how things like that progressed over time and how it started and why. Of course, with our better design for keeping bees over the bee skep, it's a lot easier to harvest honey without hurting or harming or disturbing the bees as much. And so protective gear is more advanced, but gosh, I bet they really could have used that when they were having to destroy entire skeps to harvest honey and wax. Honeybees aren't aggressive creatures, they're very defensive. So if I'm at their entrance making a fuss, or I'm getting into their honey stores, they may be a little bit more on the defense. I'm in their path of flight as they are leaving, but they are on their way to find pollen and nectar for the hive. I am not a threat. I'm far enough away that they don't really consider me a threat. Now, if I got closer and I was closer to the entrance, that'd be a different story. But just learning how to be in tune with the bees is a huge part of beekeeping, and it's about keeping the bees, it's not about taming the bees. So being able to respect them is huge. The bees were respected, almost revered, for their intelligence and hardworking nature. In one ancient text called the Geoponica, the bee is described as the wisest and cleverest of all animals, living in an organized, noble society. It's said that they hated laziness, driving out bees who didn't contribute. They followed a single leader, what medieval people thought was a king, supporting and defending him. And fascinatingly, when bees scattered, beekeepers would clap their hands rhythmically or clash cymbals to call them back home. And it's really a beautiful image, isn't it? It's a whole community summoned by the sound of music. Now, a quick reality check. It wasn't until about the 1700s that we developed a box hive that allowed us to extract honey and wax, and to do so without destroying the hive. Beekeepers in the Middle Ages had to walk a fine line between being able to harvest this very valuable resource and keeping the hives alive for the following year, else they would have to luck up and catch another swarm. How precious this resource truly is, and can still ring true today too. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into medieval beekeeping, be sure to like and subscribe and to stick around, because next month we are covering the scribe.